Across the sprawling cities of the United States, a grim reality is unfolding that few can ignore, though many still try. From the glossy skyline of San Francisco to the chaotic avenues of Los Angeles and the frigid boulevards of Chicago, tents are becoming the default housing for a growing segment of the population. They cluster under bridges, line city sidewalks, fill up vacant lots, and occupy freeway embankments. They appear in rows like broken teeth jutting from a nation that has long claimed to be the land of opportunity. But for hundreds of thousands of Americans, opportunity has vanished. What remains is a nylon tent, a concrete slab, and a daily struggle to survive. The rise in homelessness in the United States is no longer something that can be attributed to individual failings or personal circumstances alone. It is systemic, it is political, and it is deeply rooted in economic policies that have stripped away safety nets while funneling wealth upward. For decades, housing has shifted from being a necessity to an investment vehicle, and in the process, people have been priced out of their own cities. Rent has skyrocketed, wages have stagnated, and the dream of home ownership has become a cruel joke for many. And when housing becomes a luxury, tents become the last resort. What's happening in cities like Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, and New York is not an isolated crisis. It's a national emergency. In Los Angeles County alone, tens of thousands of people sleep outside every night. Tent encampments have become cities within cities, with their own social structures, unwritten rules, and shared grief. Some people have been homeless for years, others for just weeks. Some are elderly, others are children. Many work low-wage jobs during the day and retreat to a tent at night because even full-time employment can't keep up with rent. It's a staggering contradiction that in the richest nation on earth, so many citizens live without the most basic necessity: shelter. Life in a tent is not romantic. It's not an adventure. It's not a lifestyle choice. It is a last-ditch survival strategy. Inside those thin walls of polyester and tarp, people are trying to retain dignity in the face of humiliation. They cook meals on small gas stoves, bathe with bottled water, and secure their belongings with chains and padlocks. They sleep with one eye open, knowing that at any moment a police officer could wake them up and tell them to pack everything and leave, or worse, that a city sanitation crew might destroy their tent altogether in a so-called cleanup. These sweeps are brutal. Under the guise of public sanitation or safety, entire tent communities are destroyed, often with little notice. Personal items, medications, family photos, clothing are thrown into garbage trucks. People are left standing on the street with nothing but a bag of what they could grab in time. The justification is often that the camps pose health hazards or attract crime. But instead of offering housing solutions, cities treat the symptom with force, not the cause with compassion. The problem isn't that people are living in tents. The problem is that they have no other place to live. Many people in these encampments suffer from untreated mental illness or substance use disorders, but these are not the reasons they became homeless. They are often consequences of it. The trauma of living without stability, of being constantly dehumanized, of enduring cold, hunger, and violence can break anyone. And in the absence of support systems, people fall deeper into despair. Mental health services are stretched thin, rehab beds are limited, and affordable housing units have been cut or delayed for years. The pipeline from eviction to the streets is short and unforgiving. Then there are the families. Yes, families are living in tents too. Parents with small children, teenagers trying to study while living in a car or a tent, elderly grandparents caring for grandkids because they have no place else to go. In school districts across America, children classified as homeless are rising in number. Some live in shelters, some couch surf, and some live in tents, trying to stay clean and get to class without anyone noticing their struggle. The shame is profound, but their resilience is often heroic. There's also the bitter reality of health and sanitation. Living in a tent means no running water, no toilets, no heat. Public restrooms are scarce and often locked. In many cases, people must relieve themselves in buckets or alleyways, increasing the risk of disease and deepening public resentment. Showers are a rare luxury. Food is whatever can be stored without refrigeration. Medical care is often postponed until an emergency strikes. For the homeless, basic hygiene becomes a battle, and public perception often blames them for the conditions they endure. Winter makes things worse. In cold weather states, people freeze to death in tents each year, while emergency shelters fill up beyond capacity. In summer, extreme heat leads to dehydration, heat stroke, and illness. America's cities were never designed to support thousands of people living outdoors year-round. But rather than adapt by building housing or creating humane solutions, most municipalities resort to criminalizing the poor. Anti-camping laws, sit-lie ordinances, and aggressive policing target the very existence of homeless people. It's not a war on homelessness, it's a war on the homeless. The public narrative is broken too. Politicians and media often reduce the crisis to sound bites, drug addiction, mental illness, bad choices. But rarely do they speak about skyrocketing rents, disappearing social housing, medical debt, wage inequality, or the collapse of unionized labor. Rarely do they mention that in many places, full-time workers cannot afford even a studio apartment, or that millions of Americans are just one paycheck, one illness, or one eviction notice away from joining the ranks of the unhoused. And yet, amid this crisis, there is hope. In some cities, communities are fighting back. Not just the homeless, but housed residents too, organizing for tenant rights, demanding housing-first policies, and calling for an end to criminalization. Nonprofits, churches, and volunteers deliver food, set up mobile showers, and distribute blankets and hygiene kits. Tent residents themselves form mutual aid groups, protect one another, and share resources in ways the broader society often refuses to do. But charity is not a substitute for policy. Compassion can't replace infrastructure. The only lasting solution is housing, not temporary shelters with curfews and bunk beds, not warehouses with cots. Real housing, affordable, permanent, supportive. Studies have proven over and over that housing-first approaches work. When people are given a stable place to live, their chances of recovery, employment, and improved health rise dramatically. It's not rocket science, it's common sense. But it requires political will, sustained investment, and the courage to prioritize people over profits. We must also stop thinking of homelessness as a fringe issue. It is mainstream now. The middle class is slipping. Student debt, medical bills, job insecurity, these are not abstract problems. They are pathways to the same fate. The next person in a tent could be your neighbor, your coworker, or you. That's the true horror of it, how close we all are to the edge. So as tents continue to multiply across our cities, the question we must ask is not why they're there, but why we've allowed a society to reach this point. Why a country with so much wealth, innovation, and power can't provide the most basic form of dignity to its people, a safe place to sleep. Why the richest nation in history has resigned itself to a reality where children grow up in tents, veterans die in the streets, and seniors beg for medicine outside their shelters. The American dream, for many, has withered into an American emergency. And until we face that truth, the tents will remain, not just as shelters, but as symbols. Symbols of a society in decay, symbols of the human spirit surviving against all odds, and symbols of the urgent need to rebuild, not just our cities, but our values.